Okay, Internet Technology students, this is your how-to for HFHTML and CSS, Chapter 3, pages 77 through 87. 77 through 87, Chapter 3. And what we're going to do here is, I've already gotten this open, Chapter 3. I'm assuming you know how to do that. You should know how to do that. But now if you don't, go back and watch some of the how-tos. I also have my DreamHost file manager open, and I am already in my folder for my website. Okay, we are going to do some file work here, but we're in Chapter 3, Building Blocks, Web Page Construction. It's a real, we better find some hard hats, Betty. It's a real construction zone around here. These web pages are going up fast. So you're going to begin putting up some more web pages. I was told I'd actually be creating web pages in this book, and really we've learned a lot lately about tags and elements, but now we are going to begin to actually build some web pages on our own. Okay, what better way to enjoy my new segue than to hit the open road? This is Tony. I'm riding it across the entire USA, and I've been documenting my travels in my journal. What I really need to do is get this as a web page so my friends can see it. So this is a segue. This is Tony, and he actually kept a journal here, so you can see his journal, Segue in USA. And he's got the journal page from June 2nd of 2012, and there's a picture of him, and it says my first day of the road trip. I can't believe I finally got everything packed. So there's a page of his journal, and there's a page of his journal from July 14th and August 20th, and another picture. Now, I already posted how you can fetch these pictures into your directory. So if you need to, you have to go back to fetch those files, but it's easy to do. I've posted the links to them. But what we're going to do is we're going to be making a web page, okay, for his journal. All right? So that's what we're doing. You got to make sure you read through it so you know what you're doing there. All right? So from journal to website at 12 miles an hour, that's the top speed of the Segway. Tony's got his hands full. Why don't you give him a hand, create a web page for him? Here's what we're going to do. First, you're going to create a rough sketch of the journal. That's the basis for your page design. Next, you're going to use the basic building blocks of HTML, H1, H2, H3, and the paragraph tags to translate your sketch into a blueprint. Once you have the outline, then you're going to translate it into real HTML. Finally, with the basic web page done, you'll add some enhancements and meet some new HTML elements along the way. Okay, so we're going to do this exercise first. So we're going to look at his journal and think about how you'd like to present the same information in a web page, and draw a picture of that page on the right. No need to get fancy. You're just creating a rough sketch. Assume all his journal entries will be on one page, and so you see they've got this page rather long, and your idea is to think about what's going to go in certain places. Okay, I'm going to switch over just to kind of show you what that would look like. Okay, so I've got this open in Cami, and we'll be doing this for an assignment for a different web page. But what we're going to do, what we essentially would do, is if we had a pencil and we were making a drawing. I'll set this up in I'll just use black. That's going to be easy to see, and I'll make it a little bit thicker here. Okay, so if you think about the way it looked, it said something at the top like Segue in USA. So this is kind of hard for me to do, but this is what you would be doing if you're beginning to brainstorm a web page. Okay, so you're thinking about the way Tony had it, and you would be sketching it out, right? Segue in USA, documenting my trip around the US on my very own Segway. And so that's going to be at the top, and then he has some text in there. I'm going to just switch over to a text box to make it a little bit easier for myself. I'm going to take that font size down, maybe to 14. Documenting my trip around the USA. If we come back here, oh, I can't switch it up there, but there we've got some text. Okay, so what we're doing in this situation is we're taking his journal, and since we're going to be creating the web page for it, we're sketching it out to think about how it's going to look. June 2nd, 2012, and then there's going to be a picture there. So down here, I could go, I'm going back to my drawing. That seemed to be working just as well. This is like I'm using a pencil. So he's got an entry for June 2nd, 2012, and he's going to have a picture in this space. Okay, now you don't necessarily have to have the actual picture now, because we're just brainstorming what it's going to look like. Remember what we're trying to do. We're trying to think about how we're going to create a web page. Now we've got some more text. My first day of the trip. Okay, so I'll use a text box for that. My first day of the trip. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so all we're doing here is we're planning ahead. We're thinking about the page in terms of large elements, headings, paragraphs, and images. Remember, you're going to have to create your own web page, right, as we go forward in doing this. So you got to think about how you want it to look. So on the next page, they talk about the rough design sketch. So Tony's journal looks a lot like a web page. All we need to do is create the design sketch to get all the entries. It looks like for each day that Tony creates an entry, he has a date heading, an optional picture, and a description. Let's look at the sketch. So here's the sketch that they suggested, and it looks very, very much like the actual journal. Okay, but it is on just one single page like this, and they've got the dates and they have the different headings. Okay, so that's what their sketch looks like. However, notice that we reverse the order of the journal entries from newest to oldest. That way the most recent entry is at the top. So I didn't notice that out. That's kind of an interesting thing. They took the June 12th and they put that at the bottom. July 14th is there, and August 20th is at the very top. So they reversed the order, right, of what you saw on this one. August 20th has been moved. That's a good idea for a journal. All right, now then we're going to from a sketch to an actual outline. So they're going to look at what they've got here, and they're going to go, okay, what about this text for Segway USA? How do we want that to look? Okay, and I'm going to close this out of Cami because I don't want to save it. Hopefully that didn't save. Okay, so here is we're going from the sketch to an outline. So we're thinking about what that top should be, and they're going to use the top level heading for it, H1. Now all we need to do is figure out the other elements, and then you can start writing the HTML. So what element are you going to use for this part right here, which is right underneath Segway in USA? So documenting my trip around the USA on my very own Segway. Well, that looks like just a regular paragraph. So this is just going to be a paragraph tag. So once again, I'm going to annotate this with Cami. This is not an assignment for you. I'm just showing you what normally you would be doing if you were actually doing this as an assignment. So this is going to be a paragraph tag. Okay, and if we head back up, that was the paragraph. Now we've got this. Now this August 20th, 2020, maybe we don't want that to be as big as our main heading. So this part right here can be an H2. It's kind of hard for you to see that. Okay. Now while we're doing this, we also have to think about the code that we need to actually create the page itself. And so don't forget that you're going to have a body tag. Ooh boy, I'm not spelling that very well, am I? That's the body tag. And then we also have to have an HTML at the top, and we also have that head tag so that we can put a title onto it. So don't forget about that other HTML that we use to just create the page in general. This one is the picture, so we're going to use an image tag here eventually. And then below that there's more writing, so that's a paragraph. Here's a date. That's going to be that H2. So this is a kind of an exercise that you would do to plan out the page. That's another paragraph. That's another H2. That's another date right there. Here he has another picture. And at the end, he's going to finish it up with a paragraph. So once again, I was looking at the journal, right, the sketched out journal, and converting that into the HTML. So now we're going to go from the outline to a web page, and here you can see the answers. Now if you notice, these lines will lead you over to what you see on the next page. So if you follow those lines over, here's what it translates to. And so they're actually giving you the code once again to be able to create that page. Okay? Now here's an important thing at the bottom. It says go ahead and type this in, save your file to chapter 3/journal folder as journal HTML. So we're actually going to be creating a folder for chapter 3, and inside of that there's going to be another folder called journal, and inside of that is going to be this actual file called journal.html. So we're going to do a little file management here. We're going to make a folder called chapter 3. Inside of that there'll be a folder called journal, and inside of that we're going to save our journal HTML. So all this stuff right here is our journal HTML file. So let's switch over to our DreamHost file manager. Okay, and I already made a folder called journal, but I'm going to create a folder called chapter 3, and I'm going to put my folder called journal inside of it. Okay, so I'm going to click here for a new folder, and this is going to be called chapter 3. I'm going to do mine as chapter_3. That'll make my chapter 3 folder, and then I'm going to take my folder that I've already named journal, okay, and I'll right click it and choose cut, and then I'm going to go into chapter 3 and choose paste. And inside of that journal folder is where I have my journal.html, and I also have my images. Okay, so I made a folder called images. That's where I put my 2 segue pictures that I used the fetch command to bring in. So I don't know if you can see that okay. If I zoom in a little bit, here's my main website folder. There's the chapter 3 folder. Then I made one I brought in the one called journal. I have another folder called images. Inside of my journal folder is where I have the journal.html. I'm going to leave that up on the screen. You can always pause it so you can see, but that's where you need to have that file. Okay? So once we've done that, let's take a look at, and I better take a look at my I'm going to look at my journal HTML. I believe I've copied that in there. Yeah, I've got my code in there already. Okay. So now I'm going to look at my website. Remember where we're at. We're inside of a folder called Chapter 3, and we're inside of a folder called Journal. So I'm going to go to my website at Mr. Walter RTHS Tech Online. And by the way, I made myself an index, my own index HTML, but you don't have to have that yet. So, but I did have a folder called chapter_3. Okay, so that's what chapter 3 looks like. You can see I have a folder in there called Journal. So again, I'm going to zoom in so you can see. All right, so there's my main website. Then I went into /chapter3. That's my chapter 3 folder. I have a folder called Journal inside of there. And there's my journal HTML. Okay, and you can see it. There's August 20th, and I got the pictures and all that stuff. So by following along in your Head First HTML, you'll be able to create that journal web page. That gets us down to page 83. On page 84, they tell you about test driving the web page, so you actually go to visit it. Now, remember, you're not going to follow their specific instructions because your web pages are actually out on the internet, so you already have a website. So instead of opening up the file like they talk about here, you're going to go to your website to test drive it so you can see. Okay, so just like I did, you're going to go to your own website to look. And then once we get to page 85, we're learning about some new elements. We're going to add some new elements to the page. You have the basic elements down, right? We've got a paragraph element, we have an H1, we have an H2 and an image. Now we're going to stretch your brain a little and add a few more common elements. Let's take another look at the journal and see where we can spruce things up a bit. And so right here it says, check this out, Tony has a little quote stuck at the end of the first post. It's a remix version of Lao Tzu's quote, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one segment. Wait, so they're finding a particular part of his journal, right? That it's an actual quote. So there's an element called the quote element, a block quote. It's a Q, the letter Q, for just that kind of thing. Let's take a look on the next page. So we're going to be using this Q element, right? And what they've done here is they have a sample. They have some sample code. You could type this in if you wanted to practice and see what it looks like, but they're just showing you what it does. Okay, so this Q and then end Q, and then Q and end Q is called a block quote. All right, and what it does is it puts quotes automatically around that text. All right, it's added the double quotes for you already automatically. So if I come back over here to my web site, okay, you can see down at the bottom, at the very bottom, although you can't see that very well on yours, I need to resize a bit here. No, you're still not seeing that too well. Just a moment. Okay, so the very bottom, you can see this, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one segue, and you've got the quotes put in there automatically. Okay, and if we look at the at the page source for this, you can see down at the bottom, there's that cue. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with one segue, and then the end of the quote. Okay, and I don't remember if there was another place that they used that. We already learned about the block quote, right? That's another one that we're going to do. Actually, I don't know if you've learned about block quote, that block quote element or not, but this little poem, passing cars when you can't see, may get you a glimpse of eternity. So they used a element called block quote to be able to do that. And what that does is it gives it special formatting also. If you see in the web page, right, this is what our block quote did. It indents it a little bit. It automatically adds that indent for you. Okay, so that will bring you up to page 86, and once we get to that, I'm going to stop this video, and we're going to be doing some additional exercises to be able to work on some of those HTML elements. Okay, email me if you have questions.